ask you real quick, just to talk a little bit about the upcoming book. It sounds like it's going to be coming out towards the end of the year or the second half of the year, called the Terror War. I did want to ask you, because I don't remember if we got into it very much in the first interview. I know we mentioned it, but Bloody Sunday, why was that such a seminal event in the whole War of Independence? Was it because of just a massive scale of the violence, or what was it that?
Well, Bloody Sunday was the 21st of November, 1920. And there were three basic events that happened on Bloody Sunday. In the morning, there were 14 British officers, soldiers, and a civilian who were killed by an Irish hit squad that went out specifically to assassinate them. In the afternoon, there were 14 people who were killed at a GAA, a Gaelic Athletic Association football match in Croke Park. And then later on that night, there were 3 people killed in Dublin Castle, 2 of whom were the brigadier and the vice brigadier of the Dublin Brigade. So you have this massive number of people, 31 people killed within 12 hours. That's number one. Number two, you actually have the combination of all the things in one time that go into the whole war, and it is a terror war. You've got politics, you've got military action, and terror is the idea of creating intimidation and fear in people. You want them to change what they're doing, change their lives. On the very morning of Bloody Sunday, you had these British officers who were intelligence agents killed. The other British agents who were around Dublin, living in private homes at the time, packed their bags, grabbed their families, and ran to Dublin Castle to hide. That's intimidation. That's fear. They're soldiers, they're in uniform, but they were intimidated to get out of where they were and get over here and do something else. If you are a man or a woman going to a GAA football match in the afternoon and you see people being killed in front of you, you look at this and you say, there's a man named Ned Corcoran who was there that afternoon. And what he said was, I see this, I never thought I would have seen people get shot. Now when I go to a match and I hear the national anthem and I see the planes above me, it's such a different thing. Intimidation, fear. Do I want to go to a meeting? Do I want to go to a match? Do I ever go to that kind of thing? That's what terror is. Terror is when you make people change the way they live their lives. And it doesn't make any difference if you are a state person or a non-state person, nor does it make any difference if it's a state entity or a non-state entity that creates it. It's this concept of intimidation and fear and changing lives that creates the terror. And the terror does not end at the event. When Ned Corcoran is wondering, do I go back again? It was long after the event at which he was. The trauma lasts forever. The war might end, but the trauma doesn't.
Yeah, and one of the other things, I think you mentioned this in the new book, is you talk about the idea of that terrorist activity usually elicits a response from the governing entity, whatever that is, that's usually overhanded enough that actually starts to change people's minds towards, which side they want to be on in terms of the conflict. And this may be a stretch, but when I was thinking about that, it seems like we're watching that right now. Is there's a reason why they're labeling what happened at the Capitol domestic terrorists. The reason why they throw that word out there, because that elicits a response that potentially could justify them doing something that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, or that's so overhanded as to produce the counter or the opposite impact of what they wanted originally. Am I close at all there or no?
Well, terror itself, the word terror elicits a certain response. And terror is often used to define what you did that I don't like. It's not necessarily defined, this is the action, but it's the fact that you did that action and I don't like it. And it also provokes other reprisals. That's one of the concepts of it. When you were in Iraq, there was probably a time when you were seeing people have their heads cut off. That's terror. Yeah. But to whom is this terror directed? Well, it's directed at the United States, certainly. It's directed at your own soldiers, certainly. It's directed at the world, certainly. But it's also directed at your own people, saying, if you mess up, we will cut your heads off too. You have all these audiences to whom the terror is directed. And you can't sit there and say terror is one-sided. What we do, we don't do that, but they do. They do that, but we don't. No, both sides commit terror, and it's the idea of intimidation and fear.
Yeah.
There's an old Chinese proverb of war that says, it's not how many are killed, but it's how many are put into fear.